not in the wrong place, great, glad to have you here. And if you've stumbled upon us on accident, welcome. We're going to talk about technology. So yeah, we'll give it another minute and then we'll get started. We'll say like 6:45, 6:46, excuse me. Kind of fill a little space for that minute. My name is Jillian Charest. I'm a 2004 graduate of St. Michael's College, and I'm going to be the moderator today. We also have Alyssa helping us out as well. Alyssa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Elisabeth O'Donnell, and I'm a 2019 grad. And I am living in Boston right now, and I do technology PR.
Very timely. So officially, everybody, welcome to the technology panel for the 2020 Virtual Career Symposium. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to hear from 3 alumni that are currently in the technology field. We're super excited to have them with us tonight. And in regard to asking the panel questions, we have some questions that came in, prior to the session during the registration process. And we have some canned ones, but at any point, don't hold back. Put those questions in the chat. We can utilize those to ask our panelists those questions, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. This recording will be available to students post-session. It will be on the Career Symposium page, so you'll be able to access any of the recordings from any of the previous panels as well as this panel tonight. So 30 minutes is quick. While we have everybody here, let's get into it. So panelists, I'm going to ask if you take a few minutes just to start to introduce yourselves, share what you're currently doing for work, and just what your journey has looked like from being at St. Michael's College to today. And Allison, if you want to kick us off, that'd be great.
Yeah, I will. All right, thank you very much. And hello, everybody. I'm a 2005 graduate of St. Michael's College. My major was journalism and mass communication. And I will try to take you through a speed tour of my journey to my current role, which is a software test engineer at Dealer.com in Burlington, currently working remotely, as a lot of us are. But I'm local, I live in Colchester. So my journey was very roundabout to get to where I am today. I initially graduated and thought I was going to do an internship, an unpaid internship at a company in Stowe that did video stuff. So I was really more interested in like the multimedia side of journalism. So online stuff, digital stuff, video stuff. And so I was going to do this unpaid internship and also work at Denny's, which I did work at Denny's for maybe 2 months, but ended up quitting because one of my professors at St. Mike said, hey, there's this awesome opportunity. I think you'd be great for it. It's at the Burlington Free Press, and it pays well. So I ended up taking an online editor position at the Burlington Free Press, where I was managing pretty much all the print content, making sure it appeared online. They also ended up getting a video camera at some point during my time there. So I was going out with reporters and I was shooting video and editing together little video stories. And that made me think maybe I'd like a career in video, like video reporting, TV journalism. So I went to Syracuse University and got my master's degree in broadcast journalism and had a job as a multimedia journalist, one-man band, they were often called. So I would go out and shoot stories, conduct interviews, put myself on camera if I felt it was necessary, again, edit stories. So it was a lot of work. I did that for about 2.5 years at a station in upstate New York. News 10 Now, it was called way back then. And kind of burned out of that, low pay, a lot of work, and I wasn't really passionate about like getting that breaking news story. So I started thinking about what else from my time at St. Mike's did I enjoy, and I kind of gravitated toward multimedia stuff. So I started looking for jobs in like the tech sector, ended up finding a job where I was basically a support customer service rep, but also was doing some marketing videos. So kind of pulled that broadcast piece from my Syracuse career and used that in my new career at CPA Site Solutions as a customer service tech person, and was there for about 3 years. That was back in Burlington, and decided that I liked doing the quality assurance and like the software testing aspect of the job, but they didn't really have anything full-time there. So that's what ultimately led me to Dealer.com, where I am today. So I'm a software test engineer. I do both manual and automated testing, and also do some writing of code using the JavaScript language to write automated tests and make sure the stuff that our developers are developing meets our criteria and doesn't break and is useful for the customer. So that's me in a nutshell.
And fun fact, Allison and I are actually coworkers, and I don't do any coding. So if she were to send me any of her work, I would have no idea what it is, but I know it's great. All right, George or Jared.
I could go next if that's all right. So my name is Jared Pike, and I'm a 2013 graduate. I studied biology and minored in chemistry. While I was at St. Mike's, I had an opportunity to work with Declan McCabe with ecosystem ecology research in Vermont streams. Little did I know that that experience at St. Mike's was going to help me get to where I am right now, which is at NASA's Johnson Space Center, working for a company called KBR as a crew health integration specialist. Yeah, I'll take you kind of through a bit of the whirlwind that has been my career trajectory so far. So yeah, I graduated in 2013, was really looking for entry-level positions in bio or chemistry. Ended up in Lebanon, New Hampshire, working for an environmental testing lab. Worked there for 3 years doing environmental testing, and then moved on to Philadelphia, where I worked in a genetics lab. It was during that time that I found the University of North Dakota had a space studies program. And my goal with science was really always to end up in the field of space, human spaceflight in particular. And so I took the opportunity to move out to North Dakota, and similar to Vermont, very cold out there, very flat though. And there's a great program out there with the human spaceflight lab, and had an opportunity to work with a professor who works on spacesuits and basically a lunar base, an analog lunar base. We call the inflatable lunar Martian analog habitat. While I was at UND, I also had an opportunity to work down at Kennedy Space Center for an internship, which directly tied back to what I was talking about earlier, my experience with Declan McCabe and ecosystem ecology. Specifically, I was looking at aquatic invertebrate research down at Kennedy Space Center. From there, I graduated with my master's in space studies and started looking for jobs that were specifically oriented to human spaceflight. While I was at the University of North Dakota, I focused on human factors. So that's really what I was looking for in my career. Because human spaceflight isn't necessarily something you find everywhere across the country, Houston, Texas was really where I was focusing my search. And I found a job opportunity with a company called KBR, who's a NASA contractor, working for the Human Health and Performance Directorate here. And I am a crew health integration specialist, meaning that I'm working with flight surgeons, which are doctors here, and engineers, scientists, and management to try to advocate for maintaining crew health in vehicle designs, specifically Artemis vehicles. If you've seen any news from NASA over the last year, there's a new program called the Artemis program, which looks to land the first woman and the next man on the moon. And there are a few different vehicles involved in that, and as well as a spacesuit. And so my job really goes across the different vehicles that are part of the Artemis program, as well as the next generation spacesuit. And yeah, if I look back at my career path, there's really not a lot of linear movement. It's been a lot of stepping in one direction, following my interests, and reevaluating where I can go next until I've found this job, which is more of a career role. It all started with St. Mike's providing the experience, the idea that curiosity is something you should always keep with you and to question everything. And yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. All right, George.
So I'm George Hayes, class of 2006. Questions for me, I guess, if anybody has any questions around living internationally, or if you start down a career path and you absolutely don't want to do it anymore, then that's probably for me. So, I have an accounting degree from St. Mike's, spent 6 years in public accounting. It was great. I am a licensed CPA. When it came time to be a partner, I decided I did not want to do that. Stumbled around, found my way to business school. Then after business school, worked for a very large software company called SAP, where I took on roles in marketing, was a chief of staff, did some sales support roles, left SAP just about a year ago now, and went to a small growth stage company called LogRocket, where we do front-end monitoring and product analytics. And I am building out our product marketing team here. So, really around anything that's around selling software to Fortune 1000, Fortune 5000 companies is what I do. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, everybody. Definitely, I think really honing in on the liberal arts aspect of like all the different job sectors and career spots that we've touched on just in your introductions. So I guess maybe I'll kick it off with a first question as we wait for questions to come in. When we talk about technology, there's a wide breadth of really what can be covered, and we learned that through, just our introductions, as I mentioned. For you, what's changed really in the past 5 years? And then to follow up on that, like what do you see changing in the next 5 years? And 5 years might be too long. It might be 3 years.
Go for it, Allison.
Oh, I don't know if I have a great answer. Just for me, it's fairly specific in terms of like the language, the programming languages used, and there have been a lot of changes in how the languages were written 5 years ago versus how they're written now. That there's updated versions. So I don't consider myself an expert in JavaScript by any means, and there are tons of programming languages out there. I oftentimes feel like I'm playing catch up, and I'm sure there's going to be like another major version update, in the next year or so. So for me, it's about educating and getting a mentor. I paired myself up with a mentor at my company, which I highly recommend for anyone if your company is open to that. So it's been a really great learning opportunity for me to work with someone who I do consider to be an expert, who can help me to level up my skills.
Yeah, and I think to pile on that, this is one of the, I think most industries you have to do this, but it's exceptionally, I guess, prevalent here in that like the types of jobs and the types of technology that comes out change so rapidly that there's no way you could have learned about them in school because they were nascent or like infant technologies while you're at St. Mike's. Think for things like me, what we do at LogRocket, one of our core features didn't exist until 2010 or 2012, which was 6 years after I graduated. So a lot of that gets down to kind of personal responsibility on education in a much less formal and structured way. So I think that comes down to like, as Allison said, finding a mentor, but even going beyond that and taking that step to take control of your own career and responsibility for your own kind of education and figuring out ways to do that both formally and informally.
And actually at St. Mike's, I spent one semester as a computer science minor because I thought I might want to do computer science. And I went running away scared because it was really difficult at the time. And the professor was like, it's probably going to get harder, just so you know. And so I just jumped ship immediately. And I somewhat regret that. That was my choice. I wanted to get straight A's and be a good student, and I didn't want to get bad grades. But now I feel like I'm kind of having that redemption at my job where I can kind of do the learning at my own pace and not have to worry about grades. So
that seed had already been planted, Allison. It was just destined to happen.
It was waiting to grow.
Exactly. There's actually a follow-up question. I'm thinking that one of the questions that came in from the registration was talking about computer science. And the question is, what applications can computer science have, or what fields can you use a computer science degree outside of maybe coding?
I'm trying to
Or is it more of like a skill set that now, because everything is so digital, maybe it can almost be inserted anywhere?
Yeah, so I think it all depends on what your career goals are. I mean, a lot of people, there is no downside to having a technical degree, period, full stop. I think what you want to do with it, you can get into selling software. We have a desperate need all over the industry for things called sales engineers who explain how software works inside a customer's or prospect's environment. So that's something where you need both like people and customer skills as well as the technical abilities to show them how the product would be implemented and how it will function on a day-to-day. And that's not something that just somebody without a technical degree can do. You know, product managers, product marketers, what I do, you don't need a technical degree, but having a technical degree never hurts because you can interface more closely with the engineering team. I mean, I would suggest just go look through any large, maybe not large, but kind of like mid-sized software company and just take a look at what roles they are, regardless of department. And I think you'll be very surprised as to who requires engineering and how many of those roles actually prefer having somebody who has an engineering or kind of technical background.
Yeah, and at our company, I've seen people who started as software developers and have taken roles in management, have taken roles as product owners, as Scrum Masters, which if you're familiar with Agile software development is a term for a person on a team that kind of holds up a mirror to the team and helps them to see areas that they can improve upon. So there's tons of opportunities that don't have to be directly related to coding or software development or testing.
I actually, when you said Scrum Master, I remember my first day at dealer.com and they were talking about a Scrum Master and I was like, so everyone here likes to play rugby. Who knew? Just shows you how lack of my technical ability. But now I know, I'm very familiar with the Agile process. Jared, we actually had a question come in specifically for you. They were wondering what your normal day looks like at the Human Spaceflight Lab. I think we all want to know that.
So when I was at the University of North Dakota at the Human Spaceflight Lab, my biggest role was working with the lunar Martian analog habitat, which was basically a 5-module lunar base that we would host multi-week missions, we would call them. So we'd lock people in there for 2 weeks. I got to be a part of that at one point, but really preparing all the logistics for carrying out those missions. I was in charge of really setting up what we called the science module so that we could carry out certain research, you know, and compete for grants as well. And I also worked in our plant module where we kind of had a greenhouse, so to speak, and managing all the plants in there. That goes back to a biology background as well. I think if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't have been as valuable to the team there. And really never underestimate the experience that you have and how you can use that going forward. And when people may look to you and rely on you for your expertise. I had some coworkers at the Spaceflight Lab working on spacesuit research and 3D printing, as well as flying autonomous aircraft. But really my job was focused more around that analog habitat.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's go into our next question that we have here. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face in your industry right now? And how do you or how does your company either overcome them or face those challenges?
I'll take a stab at this. So right now, our company, so dealer.com, for those that don't know, is we're all about selling car dealerships websites to sell their inventory and marketing solutions, advertising solutions. So basically, we want to get car dealerships business. We want the car dealership to get business. So we give them tools in order for them to do that. With the COVID-19 pandemic, things have drastically changed for car dealerships, for a lot of businesses, obviously. So our company has done a lot to try to pivot and to try to keep business and help dealerships keep their business. Initially, we actually offered a credit kind of as a gesture to the dealerships, saying we know that you're in a financial downturn right now and we want to help you out. And then we've been able to gain some business as a result of offering those credits. We're also trying to think of innovative products, or how can we find kind of like niche markets. For example, my team is working on a product where the intent is to try to get some of the advertising dollars that dealerships spend on traditional television advertising and pull those away and use them with us to advertise on some of these, what are they called? They're called over-the-top platforms, or things like Hulu or MLB TV, so streaming services, basically. So
we're going to find you with those advertisements.
Yes, we are. So it's really, I think, about being innovative and thinking about problems in new ways. How can we bring in revenue and help our dealerships at the same time by thinking of creative solutions that are not only going to help them, but help us as well.
Yeah, we definitely, to piggyback on Allison, you know, it was crazy when, you know, kind of March rolled around, and, you know, one of the challenges that we had is like, we're always trying to get people to be more digital. And now our clients actually had to were forced to be more digital. So really fine tuning the products to kind of help them, you know, still succeed in their day to day. Like to George's point earlier about like, what are the goals? Like, what are you going back to? It's like, all right, here we go. So thanks, Allison, for that.
I'll give one they're probably not going to teach you in school, because I definitely didn't get it. We actually have a hard time spending money right now. What our business plan was 12 months ago to what it is today is completely different. And the needs we have to, like, channels to promote our new product, channels to kind of sell our new product or acquire, you know, qualified leads, don't exist anymore. You can just think of like any kind of conference or event in Las Vegas. It's just not happening. Those were very expensive and things that we planned for. And now we don't know what to do with that money, which sounds like a good thing, but that also means we're not growing as fast as we should be. So that's kind of something we're trying to figure out to do, is how can we deploy this capital we have on the sideline in the way that will help our business the most in this new world.
And I guess I'll just provide maybe a different perspective on the technology side of things, where I'm more interfacing with people who are doing the technology work and trying to speak their language from a perspective where I have to ensure that crew in the vehicles are safe. Now, like, developers and designers have their own requirements that they have to meet, but it's a constant challenge to communicate to them that, you know, from a human side, we need to make sure that as part of the entire system, the human can function. That's a challenge that we face every day, and fortunately I work with good people who want to solve the same problem. So
thank you, everybody. We had a question come in our Q&A panel. They're asking, as a data science major, I was wondering if you could all talk about how you see data involved in your professions.
Ooh, I'll jump in here.
Like data.
Data, yes. So so dealer.com has been twice acquired now. Our parent company is Cox Automotive, and through these acquisitions, we are kind of now blended with a bunch of different companies, and we have a lot of shopper data, especially analytics, all sorts of analytics. So what was the specific question? How does data play into your job?
So much clicking, I have to find mute again. As a data science major, if we could talk about how we see data involved in our professions.
Okay, so yeah, so data is a huge driver for us. It's something that we use to show our clients that our products work for them. It's something that we use to help dealers drive traffic to their websites. Data is kind of at the heart of what we do, and there are a lot of people at the company that are working specifically on maintaining that data and figuring out ways to present it in different ways to present it so that it tells different stories that can ultimately give our dealerships more business.
Yeah, I mean, as far as what we do with it, on the marketing side, I would say the biggest use of data is any kind of A/B testing digitally. So we're going through a big messaging refresh right now. A lot of the things that, kind of made it to the final heat, if you will, we created multiple web pages, showed them to different people, served them up at different times of day, different areas, and kind of saw what tested better. And that's what's going to win our messaging. Instead of just deciding what it is or going to a focus group, you can now actually use it in a live action exercise, which is great. That's just from the marketing side. From the product side, we are looking for a data scientist at LogRocket, so you can send me a message on LinkedIn. But I would say the biggest thing, what Allison alluded to, is companies have so much data now. Everybody's figured out how to capture things. Not a lot of people have figured out how to structure it, let alone like utilize it in a very effective way. I'm sure the amount of data Jared captures on a day-to-day is just wild. But I would say that's something I would focus on whenever in your interviews or looking for a role. It's not just capturing data, but how can you then structure it and disseminate it out so it generates some kind of return for where you're going to be working.
And just to piggyback off of what George was saying, eventually we're going to be collecting a boatload of data once we're flying some of these missions. With like the International Space Station, there are tons of environmental control, life support system, a lot of that data that is being looked at every second. Crew health measures, looking at biomedical data. Once we're flying, data is going to be an important driver for how we design the next vehicle. Whether we were overly cautious, if we have a little bit of extra wiggle room in certain parameters. Data is going to help drive the hypotheses that we carry going forward, and in terms of crew health in the vehicles.
I think you guys all really hit the nail on the head of like, there's a lot of data coming in, and then it's like, okay, so you have this, like, how can you make impactful decisions based on that data that's going to drive those results. I do think we're getting close on timing. And one of the last questions that I have as we kind of start to wind down our panel is, what would be one piece of practical advice that you would give to someone starting their career journey?
Sorry, I keep jumping in first, but I've got something to say.
I like the enthusiasm.
Yeah, I would say absolutely use your connections. Use SMC Connect, use LinkedIn, use your professors. They're very connected, not just locally, but they know people all over the country. The Career Center, internships, I highly recommend an internship. But I think all of the jobs I've ever had, I got as a result, directly or indirectly, from having connections and contacts, and like having an in, someone that knew someone. So obviously you don't need that, but it's hugely beneficial if you can get it. So don't be afraid to connect with folks.
I would say don't be afraid to take a job for the next job. If you know what you want to do, look at where you want to be 5 years, 10 years, find somebody who's in that role, look at what they did and back into where you want to go. And then don't be afraid to do something for just 12 to 18 months with the whole concept of getting a skill or just getting something on your resume so you can do the next thing. That's very normal. And a lot of people, myself included, have done that. Just look at LinkedIn profiles. It'll be pretty obvious as to who did it and what they did.
Yeah, and I think looking at your resume and all the nooks and crannies of skills that you've acquired throughout your years really try to leverage those, because employers out there are looking for people with a wide breadth of skill sets, and you never know when something's going to make a difference. I'd also recommend, as George was talking about, LinkedIn, or Allison was talking about SMC Connect. Really look to see what sort of job descriptions people have, and you never know what might spark your interest, and see what they have for a skill set, and try to pursue it, pursue those skills if you can.
Nice. I was going to say, these are all little nuggets that I might take with me on my career journey, because I don't think it's over yet. Thank you guys so much for your time and speaking to students, alumni, faculty, staff, everybody that's on, the call today. For those that are in attendance, please don't forget to look our panelists up on SMC Connect, join the Career Symposium community, find us on LinkedIn. We are part of your network now, whether you like it or not, we're part of your network, and we can help you, whether it's make new connections or ask questions about roles, whatever it is, we're here to help. We're all part of the SMC family. So thank you everybody for joining, and yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Jill.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.